Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hello, I'm David Hughes, and this is the Esoteric Teaching Introductory Seminar continued. Last time we talked about the principle of disciplic succession, or Paramparā, and how the yoga system has been coming down to us from its origin in the spiritual world through the disciplic succession of master teachers and students since the beginning of time. Today we'll continue this discussion and talk about how the Paramparā of yoga became broken and what we can do to connect to the real disciplic succession. First of all, one should know that there are 4 approved schools or disciplic successions of Vedic teachings coming down from Vyasadeva, who originally recorded the 4 Vedas and the other Vedic literatures in writing. These 4 schools are the Brahma Sampradaya, coming from Lord Brahma, the first created being in the universe, the Rudra Sampradaya, coming from Lord Shiva, the Lakshmi Sampradaya, coming from the goddess of fortune, and the Kumara Sampradaya, coming from the 4 Kumaras, or sons of Lord Brahma. As I mentioned, 3 of these are unavailable in the West. Only the Brahma Sampradaya is available to English-speaking people. I happen to be an initiate of the Brahma Sampradaya. Now, without being an initiate in the Sampradaya, or disciplic succession, coming from the original Vedic masters, one cannot be a bona fide teacher of yoga, meditation, or any other Vedic art. All of these schools are at least 5,000 years old. Other more recent schools, such as the disciplic lineage coming from Shankara, are not considered authorized Vedic schools. The same goes for the Buddhists. Even though they base their teachings on the Vedas, their conclusion is disharmonious with the esoteric teaching, and therefore they are not accepted as bona fide Vedic sampradayas. In summary, anyone who claims to represent the Vedic teachings of yoga, meditation, and so on must be an initiate in one of these 4 bona fide disciplic lineages. So, when looking for a teacher, the first thing one should ask is, which of these 4 lineages are you initiated into? Because without this initiation, one cannot possibly understand the original source literatures of yoga, meditation, tantra, and so forth. These Vedic sciences are all spiritual mysteries, and they are open only to initiates who have received their teaching through a bona fide spiritual master. Without this initiation, and the years of study and service required to earn it, no one can actually teach yoga, meditation, or help you advance in spiritual life. Let me give you an example. Let's consider yoga. Yoga is traditionally known in the West as Hatha Yoga. However, this is only a small part of the Vedic teachings on yoga. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is commonly referred to as the source for teachings of yoga in the West, are actually a very recent work authored by an ordinary human being. Patanjali, although he may have been a great sage, he certainly was not on the level of Vyasadeva, who was considered a divine incarnation. Therefore, even the source material that we have for Hatha Yoga is very weak. But accepting that this source material is worth studying, then let's take a look at the original source versus what's commonly taught as Hatha Yoga today. Hatha Yoga, or as it is sometimes called Ashtanga Yoga, meaning 8 limbs, has, guess what, 8 limbs, 8 parts, or 8 practices that make up the complete teaching. They are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. The goal or aim of Hatha Yoga is to attain samadhi and realize the Chit Shakti. This is in Patanjali's own words in the Yoga Sutras. But what is Chit Shakti? Can any yoga teacher explain this? And what are these 8 limbs of yoga, and why are they given in a particular order? Can any ordinary yoga teacher explain these things? Most of all, why do the yoga teachings available in the West omit yama and niyama stages and begin directly with asana? This is not the original teaching of Patanjali, and the results that one gets from this practice can hardly be the same as the original teaching. In other words, how can anyone reach the goal of Hatha Yoga, which is samadhi, or absorption in ecstatic spiritual trance, when they do not follow the 8 stages in their natural sequence? For example, let's say that I'm to build a house, and instead of starting with the foundation, I start by building the walls. Is that going to be a very good house? Will it be useful for the purpose that I intended it for? Probably not. Similarly, if we start yoga practice with asana instead of yama niyama, can we get the original intended result of the yoga practice? I would think not. And sure enough, we see that in the Western schools of yoga, no one is attaining samadhi. No one is realizing Chit Shakti. No one is coming face to face with God. This is the real aim of yoga, and this is the real purpose of the yoga system. And Hatha Yoga is not the only kind of yoga. There's Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, so many different kinds of yoga. Which of these teachings are appropriate for our time and situation, and which are not? Does anybody know? Can anyone tell you? This is why we say one has to be initiated into the disciplic lineage coming from the original, complete source yoga teachings, or else they simply don't know what they're doing. It's easy to sell yoga as an exercise class because Americans are so focused on their bodies. But is that really the yoga that's spoken of by Patanjali? What to speak of the yoga that's spoken of by Vyasadeva, the original author of the Vedas? No, it can't be, and it's not. Therefore, this is known as bait and switch. In other words, people are saying, I'm going to teach you yoga. And that sounds very impressive. We've all heard of how wonderful yoga is and what great benefits it provides. But are they really teaching yoga, or are they teaching something else of their own design? You see, this is the problem in the West. So without being connected to a bona fide Vedic disciplic succession, we cannot be sure of the teachings that we are receiving and whether or not they are compatible with the actual goals, aims, and methods of yoga. Similarly, Tantra. Tantra is taught in the West almost exclusively as some kind of sexual practice. Now, this is totally irresponsible. For one thing, in India, there are real tantric schools that teach these practices, but they are regarded as very, very dangerous and difficult. And a person cannot be accepted into a bona fide Tantra school unless they are already accomplished in at least some of the Vedic arts such as Sanskrit, temple worship, devotional music, philosophy, and so on. It's considered a very advanced practice. So to take these very advanced practices and simply offer them to completely unqualified people is irresponsible. It's dangerous. It can hurt their spiritual life. So why are they doing this? Well, there's a number of reasons, and we're going to get into that in detail in the next section, part 2 of the introductory seminar. But right now what I want you to know is that the only reason these charlatans can thrive is that we are